What if I told you that the two old coins sitting in your pocket right now could be worth thousands of dollars? Sounds unbelievable. But it's absolutely possible. Before you spend them, take a closer look. These coins may look ordinary, but a tiny mint mark, a rare error, or even a beautiful light black vintage layer could turn them into hidden treasures collectors are desperately searching for. Every year, people unknowingly spend rare coins worth far more than their face value. Could you be making the same mistake today? In this video, I'll reveal exactly what makes these two coins so valuable, the secret details you need to check, and how some collectors have paid thousands of dollars for coins that most people completely ignored. Don't go anywhere, because one of these coins could change the way you look at your spare change forever. Imagine America in the late 1960s. The nation was still carrying the emotional weight of one of the most shocking events in its history, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. His image had become more than a portrait. It had become a symbol of hope, unity, and a future that millions believed had been taken away too soon. In the middle of this emotional period, Americans continued using a coin that reminded them of their fallen president every single day, the Kennedy half-dollar. Coin 1. Today we're looking at a 1967 Kennedy half-dollar without a mint mark. At first glance, it may seem like an ordinary old coin. But if yours has a beautiful vintage appearance, a light black natural layer, a brown spot on the reverse, and remains in fine condition, collectors may pay very close attention to it. But before we talk about value, let's travel back to the year this coin was born. It was 1967. The United States was in the middle of the Vietnam War. NASA was preparing for the historic moon landing. The civil rights movement continued changing American society. During this period, the U.S. Mint was under enormous pressure because coin collecting had exploded in popularity. People were pulling silver coins out of circulation, creating shortages across the country. To slow this down, the Mint made an unusual decision. Instead of placing mint marks on circulating coins, they temporarily removed them. That's why genuine 1967 Kennedy half-dollars normally have no mint mark, regardless of where they were produced. That small detail often surprises new collectors. The Kennedy half-dollar itself was introduced only a few years earlier, replacing the Franklin half-dollar after President Kennedy's death. Americans immediately embraced it. Many families saved these coins as keepsakes instead of spending them. Because of that, the Kennedy half-dollar became much more than money. It became part of American history. Now let's briefly look at the design. On the front is a detailed portrait of President John F. Kennedy. The reverse displays the impressive presidential seal, featuring a powerful eagle holding arrows and an olive branch beneath a ring of stars. The design has remained one of the most recognizable in American coinage. As for the specifications, very briefly, this coin is made from a 40% silver composition, weighs approximately 11.5 grams, and measures 30.6 millimeters in diameter. Those are the basics every collector should know. Now let's focus on the condition of the coin in front of us. You mentioned it has a light black layer across the surface. For many beginners, dark toning looks like damage. Experienced collectors know that's not always true. Natural toning develops over decades as silver reacts slowly with the environment. If that layer formed naturally and has not been artificially created, it can actually make the coin appear more authentic and attractive. The reverse also shows a brown spot. Again, this isn't automatically a problem. Collectors first determine whether the color comes from natural aging or harmful corrosion. Natural age-related toning is generally much more acceptable than cleaning or chemical alteration. One important rule among collectors is simple. An untouched coin is often preferred over one that has been heavily cleaned. Cleaning may make a coin appear shiny, but it can permanently reduce collector interest. Now comes the question almost everyone asks. Can a 1967 Kennedy half-dollar really be valuable? The answer is yes, but only under the right circumstances. Most ordinary circulated examples trade for relatively modest amounts because millions were produced. However, exceptional examples can attract significant attention. Collectors especially search for coins with outstanding preservation, attractive natural toning, rare striking errors, exceptional eye appeal, professional grading from respected services. When several of these qualities come together, the market value can increase dramatically. The example we're discussing today is described as having an attractive appearance, natural-looking light black toning, a reverse brown spot, and fine overall condition. According to your estimated information, its current collector market value could reach around $36,000. Remember, this figure is not guaranteed for every 1,967 Kennedy half dollar. Actual selling prices depend on authentication, grading, rarity, eye appeal, and buyer demand. Professional evaluation is always essential before assigning a high value. Why do collectors spend so much money on coins that look old? Because every rare coin tells a story. A collector isn't simply purchasing metal. They're preserving a piece of American history. They're holding an object that has traveled through countless hands, witnessed decades of change, and survived long enough to become collectible. That's something modern coins rarely achieve. If you own a 1,967 Kennedy half dollar, don't judge it only by its appearance. Instead, examine it carefully. Look for natural original surfaces, strong design details, and any unusual errors. Attractive toning, signs that the coin has never been cleaned. Sometimes the smallest details make the biggest difference. Imagine finding an old Kennedy half dollar inside your grandparents' collection, forgotten drawer, or an inherited coin box. Most people would simply see 50 cents. A collector might see history, and occasionally a hidden treasure. As we continue exploring America's most fascinating coins, you'll discover that some of the greatest collectibles don't always shine the brightest. Sometimes the coins that appear old, dark, and ordinary become the ones everyone wishes they had never spent. So before you overlook your next Kennedy half dollar, take one more careful look, because history has a remarkable way of hiding extraordinary value in the most ordinary places. Coin 2. Imagine America in 1944. The world was engulfed in World War II. Across Europe and the Pacific, millions of soldiers were fighting battles that would shape history forever. Factories ran day and night producing weapons, aircraft, and military supplies. Every piece of metal mattered. Yet, in the middle of this global conflict, the United States Mint continued striking one small silver coin that quietly passed through the hands of workers, soldiers, shopkeepers, and families, the 1,944 Mercury Dime. Today we're looking at a 1,944 Mercury Dime with a D mint mark. It features a beautiful circulated appearance with a natural light black layer that gives it an attractive vintage look. To many people, it appears to be just another old dime. But collectors know that appearances can be deceiving. Before discussing today's estimated value, let's travel back to Denver in 1944. America was producing millions of coins to keep the economy moving during wartime. Every Mercury dime leaving the Denver Mint represented something much larger than 10 cents. It paid for meals. It bought train tickets. It was dropped into jukeboxes, saved in children's banks, and carried in soldiers' pockets before they left home. No one imagined that decades later, these same coins would become collectible pieces of American history. The D mint mark tells us this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. That tiny letter is easy to overlook, but experienced collectors always examine it first. A single mint mark can separate an ordinary coin from one that attracts much greater collector interest. Sometimes the smallest detail tells the biggest story. Now, a quick look at the design. Despite its nickname, the coin does not actually depict the Roman god Mercury. The front shows Lady Liberty wearing a winged cap, symbolizing freedom of thought. The reverse features a fasces wrapped with an olive branch, representing both military strength and peace. Short and simple, that's all you need to recognize this classic American design. Its basic specifications are equally straightforward. The coin is composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, weighs about 2.5 grams, and measures 17.9 millimeters in diameter. Now let's examine the condition. This example has a beautiful circulated appearance with a light black natural layer across the surface. Some people mistake dark toning for damage. Collectors often see it differently. Natural silver toning develops slowly over decades as the metal reacts with its environment. When the surfaces remain original and untouched, that aging can actually enhance the coin's character and historical appeal. The important question is never simply whether a coin is dark. The question is whether the surfaces remain genuine. That difference matters. Another reason collectors admire Mercury Dimes is their artwork. Many experts consider it one of the most beautiful circulating coin designs in American history. Even after decades of circulation, the portrait still carries remarkable elegance. When original details remain visible despite years of use, collectors appreciate the coin even more. Every scratch tells part of its journey. Every worn edge reminds us that this dime witnessed nearly 80 years of American history. Now comes the exciting question. Could a 1944D Mercury dime actually be worth serious money? The answer depends on several important factors. Professional collectors examine original surfaces, overall preservation, strike quality, natural toning, any unusual mint errors, and finally, professional grading. Only when these factors combine does a coin move into the higher levels of the collector market. The example we're discussing today is described as having a Denver mint mark, attractive circulated condition, beautiful eye appeal, and a natural light black layer. Based on your estimated information, its collector market value could reach approximately $47,000. Keep in mind that this is not the value of every 1944D Mercury dime. Actual prices vary depending on authentication, grading, originality, market demand, and the coin's specific characteristics. Professional evaluation is always recommended before assigning significant value. Why do collectors continue searching for Mercury dimes after all these years? Because they represent more than silver. They represent an era, a time when America was facing one of the greatest challenges in its history. This tiny coin survived wartime, changing generations, economic shifts, and decades of circulation. Today it carries stories that no history book can fully capture. Imagine opening an old family coin box that has remained untouched for decades. Among dozens of common coins sits one small Mercury dime. To most people, it's worth only 10 cents. To the right collector, it could represent a remarkable piece of American history and perhaps an unexpectedly valuable discovery. Sometimes the greatest treasures aren't buried underground. Sometimes they've been quietly waiting in a forgotten drawer all along.